Heart of a Woman.
Okay guys, Heart of a Woman, we're back with Reverend Ryan Nelson, and so much he's giving us, so much. I was just sharing with him. I said, listen, this is not one story, we need 2 programs, maybe 3 or 4, but he's such a busy man. So, okay, you are now at a place you finished Bible school.
Mm-hmm.
At what point you got into pastoring, and
Right.
let's tell us about that.
Right. My first outing, or my first, I would like to put it this way.
You know what I want to find out
involvement.
though? You know what I want to find out though? What was your first preaching assignment like? A pastor told me that his first time he preached, he fainted. He
All right.
said, what was your first? I'm not talking about in Bible school.
Okay, right, okay.
I mean outside of,
All right. Just before I went off to Bible school,
Okay guys, Heart of a Woman, we're back with Reverend Ryan Nelson, and so much he's giving us, so much. I was just sharing with him. I said, listen, this is not one story, we need 2 programs, maybe 3 or 4, but he's such a busy man. So, okay, you are now at a place you finished Bible school.
Mm-hmm.
At what point you got into pastoring, and
Right.
let's tell us about that.
right, my first outing, or my first, I would like to put it this way.
You know what I want to find out
Involvement.
though? You know what I want to find out though? What was your first preaching assignment like? A pastor told me that his first time he preached, he fainted. He
All right.
said, what was your first? I'm not talking about in Bible school.
Okay, right, okay.
I mean outside of,
All right. Just before I went off to Bible school, in 1979, at the People's Church, I was asked to preach at a Sunday night service.
Okay, yeah.
And
What
wow,
was that like?
Wow. I could remember that I had piles of paper
I could imagine, yes.
to preach that Sunday night. And
You,
Sister
you,
Shawn,
you remember the...
no, to be
okay.
honest, I can't remember exactly what I preached on. But if I said maybe quarter of what,
What you
what I
wrote
wrote,
down, yes.
I would have said plenty.
Right.
As far as I could recall, I don't think I would have preached for more than 10 minutes. And 10 minutes is carried it too long, too
right,
far.
yes.
It was just quick,
Do what you gotta
Do
do
what you
and get
do,
away. Yes.
and that was
yeah,
it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think, I enjoyed it as far as my mind, went back, but, it was, a real testing time, for me
Yes,
that, for
right.
me that night. Okay? So, after I graduated from WIS in 1981, I was installed as the pastor for the Pembroke Pentecostal
Right.
Church.
I forgot about that, you know.
Pembroke
Yeah,
Pentecostal Church in August of 1981.
yes.
Going into that church, as a young man, it was very challenging. Challenging in the sense that it was going there to rebuild.
Okay.
It was a rebuilding process.
And you were young. You were
And was
young
very,
pastor.
well, very young,
Yes, yeah.
in terms of experience, and that kind of exposure. But I was not, fearful in any way, because I always felt, and one of my scriptures, that kept me through the years is Philippians 1 verse 6, being confident of this very thing, that he which has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Not only salvation, but in terms of ministry, where God is leading you into and what he wants you to do, right? He equips you. So I was not, afraid or scared, but I actually applied myself, give myself, to the Lord, and he was able, to, establish me, within, within the local church there. There was just a few members, most of them would have left for one reason or the other. So it was, rebuilding. So what you find is that after making an assessment, I went about, my my business.
Yes.
Went to visit, the homes of those whom I understood there and then who were members of the church. Visit them individually, encourage them, to, come back to the Lord first if they might have,
Yes.
relinquished or they would have turned their backs.
Yeah.
Because I think this is very, very important.
Right.
It's not just, getting people
Not
in
church membership.
It's more than that. It's, getting people, to connect.
Because it's about souls.
Exactly. It's all about people. You understand? So that was my first, directive, so to speak, in terms of the people, trying to get them back to that place if for some reason they have drifted from the Lord. And then, of course, to get back, into the fellowship, of the local church.
So how many years you stayed in?
I would have stayed in Pembroke from 1981 to 1992. You are better mathematicians than me, so you could work out the years.
And so at that time you had your children. You had your first girl.
Yes, well, actually, my two girls, they were born, in Pembroke.
In Pembroke, right? Yes.
Siobhan, being the eldest, she was 1984, and Stacy, 1986.
Yeah, you could remember those days, those years. But so you are now you're in Pembroke. You have your family. Did you have that understanding of, well, pastor or evangelism? Did you have that? What was that a call? Was that a tugging?
Okay.
Where did this come from?
Okay, right. Over a period of time, what you find is that when you are not certain, about certain areas in terms of what God will have you to do specifically,
yes,
my thing is that, you get yourself involved.
right.
It is not that at the time I did not felt that God was leading me into Pembroke. That's where I felt that's where God wanted me to start.
Right.
And God always starts you, at a point. But in starting you at a point, He's taking you, in my opinion, to your destiny.
Of course,
Right?
yes.
And
it's also about training.
Exactly, training you and all that. So after, being there for, as I said, for the better part of 10 years, coming down to the end of that tenure there, I felt as though, hey, God is leading me now into...
And uneasiness.
Yeah, God is leading me now into evangelism, church planting. That is why when, I can't remember the year, but it was close to the time of 1992, I remember we had a missions conference in Tobago, and I remember going to that missions conference, and they were looking for a missionary to go to St. Kitts to start a new work. And when I heard that, something just clicked, registered in my spirit.
Yes.
And I went straight up to Reverend Emerson Boyce, who was the missions director at the time.
That time.
And I told him that I felt in my heart that God is leading me, to St. Kitts.
Yes.
And he told me, well, I'll accept your word, on principle, but there is a process, that has to, we have to go through in order to select you. But I felt confident, there and then, and after maybe a little while, they told me to apply, and there were other guys, who applied as well, and then finally, they made the decision, that, they would accept us, as a family. And we were on our way, to St. Kitts.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that Sister Sean, the church actually rebounded. And I give God, the praise, for what He did. And the success that we were experiencing in Pembroke at the time, when I told a couple of people that I was going to St. Kitts, there was, church now started to grow.
I experienced that same thing as well.
You're doing well here. Who are you leaving here to go? And that didn't really bother me, you know. I felt that there and then our task was completed, and God is leading us into a different area, into a different island.
Yes.
And that was my peace. That was my assurance that God is leading us. And I wasn't too bothered, as to what we were leaving behind.
Yeah, because I don't know, and if I'm wrong, please correct me. I don't know of another pastor that is doing what you're doing. Honestly, I mean, in Pentecost, in Tobago,
Yeah.
I don't know, because most people you're rebuilding and you're here and people are coming back, and some people will tend to say, well, I am comfortable here, I am happy here, but you listen to the call. Yes, and I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, Sister Sean, this is very, 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 important. Knowing exactly what God will have you to do,
Yes.
and just being, obedient.
Obedient.
I will not sit here and tell you it was easy, and it is still not an easy thing, especially when you have, a family.
A family, yeah.
Understand? And
yeah.
I'm a family man. I love my family.
I know that, yes.
And whenever, sometimes I am about to leave my family, sometimes a little tear will come. They will see.
heart-wrenching.
And maybe
I
Sister
can
Nurse
imagine,
hearing
yes.
this, maybe she's hearing this for the first time. So
Yeah,
I shed a
I'm
little
sure she
tear.
knows,
Yeah,
yeah.
I shed a little tear, but
Yeah.
I don't do it, for them, to really see, because I don't really want to break them down. But sometimes, it's very tough. Sometimes it's very difficult, sometimes, to leave,
Yes.
But I think, it's important, that, we obey the Lord.
And it comes right back to what we were talking
Yeah.
about in the beginning, about your mate,
Yeah.
the person that you prayed about,
Exactly,
and God
exactly.
said, because if it was somebody who didn't understand,
Exactly.
understand God's plan and God's purpose, if they didn't understand that, it would be chaotic.
Exactly.
And then you will not be able to flow
Yeah, exactly.
and to do God's will, because you're now having problems in your marriage.
Exactly.
So you see,
Yeah.
exactly what we're talking about, people. Don't just make a decision to say, well, I want to get married, and I see this chick or I see this girl in church. You really need to pray about it.
Exactly.
You know?
So when, we went to St. Kitts, I realized there and then that the Lord, is taking me now into, a different level of ministry in terms of, church planting.
Yes.
And evangelism, and that kind of thing.
Right. So before we go to break, though, I just quickly, we have about 1 minute before we go to break. You're talking about God is leading you, and I don't want people to feel, especially somebody who's not a believer, they think, well, just here, out in the sky, out in the blue. You would have spent time with God.
Exactly.
You have to spend time with God.
Because I think that's how you will recognize.
Exactly.
That's how you will know.
Yes.
The voice of God.
Of course.
It's a relationship.
Exactly.
It's a relationship.
Yeah, it's communication.
Exactly. And that is what Jesus said. In John chapter 10, he says, my sheep.
Yes.
They hear my voice. They know my voice.
Amen.
He says, a stranger
Yes.
will they not follow, because they know not the voice of strangers.
Amen.
And the backdrop, to that is that the eastern shepherds, there's a connection, between the shepherd and the sheep, that when a call is given, to the flock,
Yes.
they recognize that voice. So
Amen.
it's the same thing,
It's the
with
same thing.
ourselves, and the Lord.
Amen. So we're taking another break, and this is so good. We're taking a break, and we'll be right back, guys.
Heart of a Woman